are back in the midst of week 2, and so we are going to go through our week 2 picks, and hopefully we can do a little better than we did in week 1. But before we get into the video, I want to take a second to ask you to please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Really helps us out. If you're a fan of the NFL, you'll love this channel. It was released multiple NFL-related videos every Thursday and Saturday all year long. Now, let's get back to the video. Okay, so we'll start out with a recap of our week 1 picks, and we went 11-5. That is not bad, but when you compare it to Vegas, who went 13-3 with only 3 upsets on the week, I would have liked to do a little better than 11-5. Now, I don't totally hate my incorrect upset picks being the Ravens, Packers, and Colts, all of whom were in very close games and could have gone either way in terms of them getting upsets, but when you get 3 wrong and only 1 right with the Steelers taking on the Falcons, that's when Vegas beats you. And I mean, come on, I'm not going to only pick favorites every week to match Vegas. You gotta be a little bit bold. You gotta be a little bit skillful on those upset picks. I'm always gonna pick a few. Though I'll acknowledge, this week, not so many upsets I like. Now, I've already picked my winner between the Dolphins and Bills, and at the time this is gonna be released, you all know what the result of that game is. But I don't yet know in terms of when I'm filming this in timeline, so hopefully I was right and the Dolphins won. But I'm actually cheering for the Bills, so I can go either way. After that, though, we move over to the Saints and Cowboys. And the Saints absolutely dominated in their week 1 game. Derek Carr looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Every part of this offense was humming, and they did it with their top wide receiver, Chris Olave, basically doing nothing the entire game. The problem is, they did that against the Carolina Panthers at home. It's pretty easy to win against the Carolina Panthers when you're at home, especially with how bad that team looks. I think most NFL fans, myself included, chalk that more up to the Panthers being terrible than the Saints actually being good. This will be a bit more of a test for the Saints. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Cowboys are one of those teams that can always be either really good or really bad in any given day, and they're almost impossible to predict. But, at least in 2023, they were really good at home. And we're not yet at the point in time where we're really believing in the Cowboys. And it's usually only once people start believing in the Cowboys that the Cowboys tend to lose those easy wins. And so because of that, I am still going to take the Cowboys in this game. I think they can win it. We're not too confident in the Cowboys yet that they'll inevitably blow it. So this is still a winnable Cowboys game. It's when you get confident that they blow it. After that, we got the Buccaneers visiting the Lions, the second straight Lions playoff rematch of the season in 2 back-to-back weeks. We already had the Lions at home versus the LA Rams, and now we have the Lions at home versus the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers had a very good week 1, albeit against a fairly putrid Commanders defense. Baker Mayfield looked great, but Baker Mayfield always has those weeks he looks great. And I do expect that he will have the ability to look very good against the Detroit Lions, who have revamped their secondary, but it's still not the best unit in the league. That being said, the Lions' pass rush should be able to have their way with the Buccaneers' offensive line, which will allow the Lions' defense to stem the bleeding a little bit in terms of their secondary. On the other side of the football, the Lions looked pretty damn good in week 1. Jameson Williams had an absolutely stellar week, and when the Lions are able to do that offensively, even when guys like Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown underperform, that tells you a lot about how many ways this Detroit Lions team can beat you. And I think at the end of the day, the Rams are a better team than the Buccaneers. And so if the Lions can win against the Rams, I think they can win against the Buccaneers too. It might be a close game if Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers offense is able to be as effective as they were last week, but I still think the Lions can pull this one out and go 2-0. Our third game is the Browns versus the Jaguars, 2 0-1 teams that have playoff aspirations in a very competitive AFC. The Cleveland Browns absolutely stunk up the joint at home against the Dallas Cowboys, and now they go on the road to visit the Jaguars, a team that showed at least pretty decently against another high-powered team in the Miami Dolphins. Both of these teams do have quarterback questions, though I will say the Browns quarterback question is a little bit bigger and higher paid, at least in terms of guaranteed money. But at least I trust Trevor Lawrence to be able to run an offense of the Jaguars' caliber. I do not trust Deshaun Watson to be able to run the offense of the Cleveland Browns. And it's because of that reason that I'm taking the Jaguars to win this game. 1, they're at home, and 2, I just trust Lawrence over Watson. It's that simple. Yeah, I think after that, the Browns probably have a more talented team, but I'm taking the Jags because of the QB. Next up, we have the 49ers visiting the Vikings, and this is a rematch of a primetime matchup from 2023 where the Vikings shocked everybody and upset the 49ers. I believe this was when the 49ers were undefeated, and I'm not sure if the Vikings even had a win at this point, and if they did, they were like 1-4 or 1-5. It was an absolutely shocking outcome that nobody expected. And I think it's going to happen again. Nah, I'm just kidding. I have the 49ers winning this game. I mean, the Vikings and Sam Darnold absolutely looked good in week 1. I moved them significantly up the power rankings because of what I saw from the Vikings and Darnold in week 1. And yes, they might be at home, but the 49ers are just different. I don't care if Christian McCaffrey isn't playing in this game. Jordan Mason looks good enough to make things work. Brock Purdy in this offense can figure out a way, and I trust that the defense will be able to get through the Vikings offensive line and get to Sam Darnold a lot better than a New York Giants team can do. And so I just got the 49ers winning this game, even if they are on the road, and even if the Vikings did win this matchup last year. After that, we got the LA Chargers visiting the Carolina Panthers, and this is not the most fun matchup we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. The Chargers are definitely a team that I like what they did this offseason, at least in terms of their long-term future. But let's be honest, this is going to be a boring team. They are going to run the ball. They are going to try to control game scripts. They are not the high-powered, gun it down the field, sling it everywhere offense that we saw in the past with Justin Herbert leading the way. Yes, they still have Herbert, but the philosophy is different and more run. And that strategy might be able to work because they're playing against the Carolina Panthers. I think pretty much everybody who watched the Panthers-Saints game at all in week 1 is predicting that the Carolina Panthers go 0-17. My prediction of the record was 2-15, and I thought when I made it, that was a little bit aggressive, especially seeing as they did win some games last year, including a game against the Houston Texans, a team that won a playoff game. But after watching that game, even 2-15 might have been a little generous. And so even though the Panthers are at home, even though they're against a non-playoff team that is probably in a rebuild, I'm still taking the Chargers to win this game. They're better coached, they got better assets across the board, and they're just going to run it down your throat, and I don't know what the Panthers can do about it. Following that putrid matchup, we have a matchup that is a tale of two teams. We have the Raiders visiting the Ravens. Now, I'm going to be honest. The Raiders visiting the Ravens almost scares me just slightly, only because I feel as certain about this game as I felt about the Bengals beating the Patriots last week, and we all know how that turned out. So I'm a little hesitant, but come on. We all know that the Ravens should be able to win this game. I think the Raiders have definitely made the moves in the offseason to build themselves up for a great future. But that future is not today. Gardner Minshew is awesome, but he is not a franchise quarterback. The team has way too many holes across the field. They have holes on the offensive line. They have a few holes in the secondary defensively. Obviously a hole at quarterback and running back and wide receiver too. Really, what do they have? They have a good defensive line, a good young tight end, and a good wide receiver. That's it. Compared to the Ravens, who seem stacked at pretty well every position, but maybe offensive line. So the Raiders do have a path to win this game. It's having Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby decimate this Ravens offensive line, somehow contain Lamar Jackson, and then just win thanks to some lucky turnovers, field goals, whatever it might be, by like 3 points. I'm not saying it's likely, pun definitely intended, but it is possible. That being said, come on now, I'm picking the Ravens. I think this is pretty obvious to everybody. The Ravens are clearly favored in this game. I doubt we have two massive upsets in back-to-back weeks of clear elite teams versus bottom feeder teams, so it's the Ravens. And now we go back to two potentially bottom feeder teams. Seahawks fans aren't going to like that, but I don't totally think the Seahawks are that great as they visit the New England Patriots. Both teams are 1-0, and both teams I still have rated pretty low in my power rankings. I don't think that either of these teams are that good this year. Yes, they might be moving in the right direction, but I don't think they're in the position now to truly compete in their respective conferences. Yeah, the Seahawks won, but they won by 6 points against Bo Picks. That doesn't instill that much confidence. The Patriots won a much bigger game against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. But come on, that seemed more like a Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow implosion than a Patriots domination. I mean, what? They put up 16 points? This is kind of what you expect from the Patriots. Their defense does look quite solid, but I don't think their offense can really do anything, and so I don't think either of these teams are that competitive. That being said, because I don't think either of these teams are that competitive, I'm picking the Patriots to win this game for 2 reasons. One, they're at home, and when in doubt, take the home team. They have the 12th man. And 2, the Patriots at least seem to have a very good defense. I'm not so convinced that the Seahawks are elite on either side of the football, and so it just leads me to take the Patriots to somehow be 2-0. And I would have never thought that possible, especially given I gave them a 2-15 record in the offseason. But hey, crazier things have happened in the NFL. Next up, we have a game that I was super excited for prior to what happened at the end of the Friday night game in Week 1. The Indianapolis Colts visiting the Green Bay Packers. I really like the Indianapolis Colts this year, and I definitely thought they had a very good game against the Houston Texans. Yes, there is a little bit to worry about. The fact that Anthony Richardson only completed 9 passes. But the fact that they were that close against a good Texans team when only completing 9 passes tells me that the Colts have a lot going for them. Their defense does leave some stuff to be desired, but their offense looks very good. They're explosive. They got a run game. They didn't really get Michael Pittman involved that much, and I still think he's an incredibly talented receiver, and if they need to go with more short underneath passes, I think they'll be able to, and Pittman will eat on this Green Bay Packers defense. On the flip side, the Packers might be able to take advantage of a weaker Indianapolis Colts defense if they didn't have Malik Willis as their starting quarterback. If Jordan Love was here, at home, in Green Bay, I tell you right now, I am taking the Packers to win this. As much as I've said I like the Colts, this would be a Packers win with Jordan Love. But Jordan Love's not there. And so I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts to beat the Packers, sending the Packers to an 0-2 record, something I did not have them going to start the season. I had them being 2-0, but they lost to the Eagles, they lost Jordan Love, and an 0-2 start now looks likely. After that, we got another matchup of 0-1 teams, the New York Jets visiting the Tennessee Titans. The Jets are not a team I trust very much. I don't think the Jets are as good a team as a lot of other people think. It's why I only moved them down 2 spots in the power rankings after their loss on Monday Night Football, because I didn't expect much from them in that game to begin with. That's why I rated them outside of the top 10 to begin. However, they are still better than the Tennessee Titans, who I really don't trust Will Levis. Will Levis looked awful against the Chicago Bears. And yeah, that might be because the Chicago Bears defense is just really, really good. But guess what? The New York Jets defense is also really, really good. Yeah, it might be in Tennessee, but if Will Levis can't beat a good defense, this is a clear New York Jets victory to me. And speaking of putrid matchups, that's right, we have a lot of them this week. We have the New York Giants visiting the Washington Commanders. We have to watch this matchup twice this season. It is on twice because they are in the same division. That is absolutely brutal. At the very least, Jaden Daniels is kind of fun to watch. I got nothing nice to say about the New York Giants. Because as exciting as the Malik Neighbors might be, you gotta get him the ball somehow. And unless they bring back Tommy DeVita, I don't know who's gonna do that. The Giants, in my opinion, are one of the worst teams in the NFL. And that's not saying that the Washington Commanders are not. But at least I feel like the Washington Commanders offense can do something. I'm not saying a lot, but something. And given they can do something and they're at home, I'm taking them. And I just don't want to talk about this game anymore, to be honest. But for every bad game, there's a good game. And this is a matchup of 2 0-1 teams I really like. And I find it hard to believe that one of these teams is going to start 0-2 because they are both playoff contenders in the NFC West and NFC in general. The Los Angeles Rams are extremely hurt right now. They lost multiple offensive linemen. They lost Puka Nacua. Who knows what's happening with the rest of the roster? But this team seems in shambles. That being said, they still got Matt Stafford. They still got Cooper Kupp, which means they still have a chance. On the other side of the football, you have the Arizona Cardinals, a team that put up 28 on the Buffalo Bills and was up 17-3, but lost 34-28. The Cardinals are definitely a team that has a very good offense, but a defense that is still figuring things out. Marvin Harrison Jr., I expect to be a little bit better in week 2, if only because 1 reception for 4 yards is about as bad as you could expect for a 4th overall pick number 1 wide receiver. But with how many assets the Arizona Cardinals have to go to, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner, apparently Greg Dortch, and Kyler Murray using his legs, I expect this to be a very high-scoring football game. And while the Rams are probably most people's pick in this game, I gotta say I'm going Cardinals. They're at home, and I really like the Cardinals. I think they are favored in this game because of some of the Rams' injuries, but I would pick the Cardinals either way because this is a team that I've been high on all offseason, and I think is going to figure it out and pull out this win. Continuing with our 4 o'clock matches, we have a game that everyone would have been salivating about, at least in the offseason, the Cincinnati Bengals visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. However, as it comes into week 2, I'm just picking the Chiefs. I mean, come on. The Chiefs look fantastic. They look like the team we expected them to be. Their offense seems to be working. Rashee Rice is getting the ball. Xavier Worthy is that big play guy. Isaiah Pacheco is still running angry. The defense still looks very good even after the loss of L'Jarius Sneed. Everything the Chiefs needed to be to have a three-peat, they at least seem to be right now, which is also why I still have them number 1 in the power ranking. On the flip side, the Cincinnati Bengals look in shambles. Their offense scored 10 points against the Patriots. And say what you will, maybe the Patriots defense is really good. I don't know. But we all had the Patriots as one of the worst teams in the NFL in 2024. And the Bengals at home scored 10 points and lost. The Chiefs defense should be every bit as good as the Patriots defense. The Chiefs defense is at home in Arrowhead. And the Bengals haven't figured out what the hell their offense is doing. This is a Chiefs victory. Bengals are going to go 0-2, and I just don't know what to think about the Bengals anymore. I just don't know. Maybe in week 5 they'll figure it out like they sometimes do, but God, this team is pathetic in September. Our final 4 o'clock game is the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Denver Broncos. And if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. You cannot pick Steelers games. If you think you can pick Steelers games, you are wrong. Last week I told you everything in my being said pick the Falcons to beat the Steelers in Atlanta. And so what did I do? I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was right. This is how you have to pick Pittsburgh games. So let's look at this week. The Pittsburgh Steelers look like they have an extremely good defense. A defense that can stop anybody. And who are they going against? Bo Picks himself. This looks like even if the Steelers offense just stays off the field and they don't score any touchdowns, they can still win. We saw it last week. The Steelers don't need touchdowns to win football games. They won by 8 points without scoring a touchdown. The Broncos can't get their offense moving. They scored 4 of their 20 points through safeties. And so, yeah, maybe their defense is decent, but Justin Fields can definitely run out of sacks and pressures if he needs to. And so everything tells me this is a Steelers victory, which is why I'm picking the Denver Broncos. Trust me, this is how you have to pick Steelers games. It makes no sense, but I promise you, it'll work out at the end of the season. You will win more Steelers games than you lose by picking against your gut with the Steelers. Our penultimate Sunday night football game is the Chicago Bears visiting the Houston Texans. A game that probably a lot of people were super excited for. The high-profile, high-upside rookie QB versus the near-elite sophomore QB. This would be an epic matchup to see where Caleb Williams was at in his career. But guess what? We already know where Caleb Williams is at in his career. Couldn't even put up 100 yards of offense against the Tennessee Titans. How do you think they're going to do against the Houston Texans? Now, I'm not convinced the Houston Texans defense is incredible. They did allow nearly 30 points against Anthony Richardson and the Colts, who only completed 9 passes. So you can move on the Texans without being super prolific in the passing game. But until the Chicago Bears figure out their offense, even if I think their defense is very good, I'm still picking against them and picking the Texans to win this game. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a defensive showout because I trust the Bears' defense, and I think they are going to pick off C.J. Stroud multiple times. That might sound crazy, but I'm calling it now. Multiple picks that C.J. Stroud is going to throw against this Bears team, but that won't be enough for the Bears to win because you're not going to win with your defense doing everything multiple weeks in a row. And when you need to win that way against the Tennessee Titans, you're not going to win that way against the Houston Texans. And we end week 2 with an all-bird matchup on Monday Night Football. The Atlanta Falcons visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. The Atlanta Falcons lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 1, a team that didn't even score a single touchdown on them, and Kirk Cousins looks like he's basically ironclad to the field. He can't move his feet. He can't even scramble to find time, like running outside or stepping up in the pocket. He is planted. He is clearly still recovering from that Achilles injury, and if we don't see more mobility from Cousins, don't be surprised if in a couple weeks Michael Penix Jr. takes some snaps so they see what they have in that guy and maybe just wait another year or a few more weeks for Cousins to recover fully. On the other side of the football, the Philadelphia Eagles looked good on Friday Night Football in week 1. The Eagles' offense looked fantastic. Their passing game looked more or less like they did in past years. And heck, their tush push didn't even work on the first time they tried it. And they didn't use it that much either. But Saquon Barkley has changed the Eagles' offense. Having an actual competent, not just competent, elite running back running behind this offensive line, even without Jason Kelce, is something else to watch. I don't really like Miles Sanders or DeAndre Swift as running backs, but they were effective in this Eagles offense. Now that you have Saquon Barkley, he is going to destroy the league. He could be the #1 fantasy option in football as a running back with this Eagles team. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go out and score 3 touchdowns a week. That would be insane. But he could go on a run similar to what Christian McCaffrey went on last year, where he basically scores a touchdown in every game. And so, because of that offense and a slightly improved defense, though, let's be clear, the Green Bay Packers still put up a ton of points and drove a bunch on the Eagles, I'm giving the Eagles the win. The Eagles are a team that is improved over the second half of last year. They're looking more like they did in 2022 and the first half of 2023. And so until I see otherwise, I have bought back in on the Eagles as a premier team. And I totally expect their defense can just get to Kirk Cousins and prevent the Falcons offense from doing much. So here is a summary of my week 2 picks. And my lock of the week is going to be the Texans versus the Bears. I just think the Texans at home versus what I saw of that Bears offense, I just can't trust the Bears will win that game. I told you, I still think that the Bears are going to be able to get multiple picks of Stroud. But if their offense can't do anything, then it doesn't matter. So that's my lock of the week. And hopefully we can improve on our 11-5 record. Maybe not improve on 11-5, but at least beat Vegas in week 2. That is always my goal. If I beat Vegas, I am happy. A 9-7 beating Vegas is better than 11-5 losing to Vegas. Comparatively, here are Vegas's picks, actually quite similar, but a few differences. 1, they have the Seahawks beating the Patriots, and 2, they have the Steelers beating the Broncos. Sucker, they're buying into the Steelers. That's when you can't pick the Steelers. This is 10D chess, 10D backgammon out here we playing. And then also, they have the Ravens versus the Raiders as their lock of the week. Again, I totally agree with that. That probably is the biggest good team versus bad team with the good team at home. I just think the Raiders are one of those teams that has the culture where there is a world where Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins cause too much havoc and they somehow pull off a win. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a world. I just don't see a world where Caleb Williams gets going after what I saw in week 1, and so Texans are my lock. And that's it for our week 2 picks. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, remember to leave a like and comment below. Help us out, help us grow. Either way, I'll see you all next time. Peace!